Yeah. Oh, good. Do you have a fever? Do you have a fever? Have you been sleeping? told you I thought I had allergies for the first year I was in Fresno, and I really used my executive assistant's perfume. I don't know if it's not me so much. I used to, but I don't anymore. I think well, all the superintendents are out. No, they're going. Here.
Get some coffee out of that thing. So you scored. Okay. It works. All right. Did I put enough water in it? I don't know how much you needed. Okay.
Speak into that microphone, Greg, so we can hear you.
Yeah. You guys ready? Let's do it. Yeah. Welcome everyone to the meeting of the Lancaster School District Board of Trustees. We're going to reconvene to open session at 6:03. And there was no action taken during closed session. We're going to start with items 8, student discipline. We have approval of expulsions of student 7103-6407 and student number 7102-3222. Do we have a motion? So moved. So moved.
Second.
Keith. Second by Diane. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Next, we have the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Bart Hoffman.
Please stand. Right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I
pledge allegiance
to the flag of the
United States of America
and
to the republic for which it stands,
one
one nation,
under
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Turn that thing. Thank you. Next, we have our enrollment report by Rebecca Cooksey, Assistant Superintendent of Innovation and Technology.
Good evening, Board. As of today, we have in UTK through 8th grade, 14,090 students. In ECE, we have 559 for a grand total of 14,649 students. This is a gain of 42 students from our last board report and a gain of 273 from the same time last year. We have 919 homeless students enrolled and 558 foster students.
Okay, thank you very much. Also, an announcement, we're going to have a community forum immediately following the meeting, so please stick around for that. And do we have any other informational items? Okay. With that, we're going to move on to presentations, requests, proposals, and reports. Thought exchange, Dr. Paul Maruti.
Thank you, trustees. I came here this afternoon or this evening to talk to you about our thought exchange survey that we sent out to our community last month. Part of my work in coming on board over the last 3 months is to really ask a lot of questions, observe, listen, and learn, and seek to understand. And so that's why we put out the thought exchange to our community. The other reason is that we have a strategic plan. Most school districts have a 3-year strategic plan, and that 3-year strategic plan creates goals, and those goals drive all of our other plans, both at the district level and at the site level. And so, due to the pandemic, the strategic plan was set down, and obviously every district in California set that plan down and moved in a different direction due to the pandemic. And so now that we are coming back to a sense of normal, we need to revisit our strategic plan that expired in 2020, and we begin to think about those goals we have for the next 3 years in the future. Right now, in our present 3-year strategic plan, our goals focus around academic excellence, safe and supportive environments, family and community partnerships, and equitable practices and positive learning environments. And you'll see that as I go through this presentation, that that's really pretty spot on where we're at and where we need to be. And so in moving forward with the thought exchange, we asked the question, as we develop our new 3-year strategic plan, to guide us, what are the important things we should consider in developing our priorities for the next 3 years? And we were lucky enough to get over 1,000 participants on our survey, which was a very nice number through this thought exchange program that you approved a month ago. We had 763 thoughts, people chiming in, people putting in and putting their information out there. And then we had over 36,000 ratings of those thoughts. So a lot of exchange, a lot of back and forth, a lot of talking, a lot of communicating about areas in which we can do better and improve. Our survey found that primarily our language was English, but we did have a couple Russian speakers take, which I thought was interesting. And we had 35% of our staff members, and I believe it was 65% of our parents, our community members who took part in the survey. It said, if you look at the words that are up here, you'll see words like safety, security, learning gaps, mental health. those are really things that stood out to us in the survey, in the thought exchange. This is a word cloud, and you see once again, the bigger words are the ones that were more emphasized: involvement, support, mental health, programs. So these are things that we have to look at and consider as we move forward as an organization. The top themes. Oh, I do want to mention one thing. The number one theme for the thought exchange, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this, was to pay teachers, to give teachers a raise. And so I want to say that because I want to be completely transparent in that. And so I know we're working through our negotiations right now, and I'm sure that will be resolved. But the top themes that we saw were around class size, children feeling safe, parents, mental health, staff safety, academics, children, learning, and grade level. And so really quickly, talking about class size was a topic that came up, and there is an emphasis on making sure that our class sizes are manageable, and that we have a classroom in which we can support children not only social, emotionally, but academically as well. And so that was a theme that arose. In addition, when we're talking about children, trying to enrich the children through field trips, extracurricular activities, making sure our children are safe. Safety is a term that comes up quite often, and student engagement. So really looking at how we're engaging children in the classroom. Are we looking at the whole child? Are we providing those enrichment opportunities for children as well? And of course, keeping our children safe. Feeling safe, once again, if students aren't safe, they can't learn. Keep doing what we can to keep everyone safe on our campuses. Parents, in the idea of parents wanting to make sure that we have more activities for parents and children. So going back to the before the pandemic and talking about things like lunch on the lawn or parent conferences, which we're going to be engaging in this week, places where we can connect our school, our organization, and partner with our parents, getting our parent volunteers back on our campus. And so really coming back together, because we know that we are not doing this alone, that without the support and encouragement with our parents and our community, we cannot do this work. And so really engaging with our parents and our community. In addition to that, we also know that the pandemic took a toll on our social emotional learning for our children. So talking about health, both mental and physical health of our children on our campuses, and the mental and physical health of our staff, and just making sure that we're providing those support mechanisms and the support systems for our children and our staff members throughout the day to make sure they feel that our school is a warm, welcome, inviting, safe place to be. Once again, staff safety and making sure that we have a lot of activity in our community, but we want to make sure that when we come through those school gates and those school doors, that our campuses are safe and they're a place where students can focus on learning. Academics. One of the things that came up was the enrichment programs, like our art and music programs. We had our bands. Our bands are in the middle of starting their concerts this year, and we celebrate that. But we want to make sure that we continue to put in place more enrichment opportunities for our children, so that when they go to school, not only for the literacy and the numeracy, for the learning, the academics, but also to enrich them and to create a whole child that is strong and ready for the world. In addition to that, academics, making sure that we have rigorous academics for our children, and that we're addressing also the learning loss that has occurred over the course of the pandemic, and providing tutoring like we do, online tutoring and live tutoring for our students. I think I'm stuck. Oh, kids. Once again, bringing back arts programs for our kids after the pandemic, focusing, like I said, on reading comprehension. We have a strong focus on making sure that we're focusing on early literacy and getting kids caught up from the learning loss that was missed during the pandemic. Was also came out through our survey. We do know that we are focusing on student discipline. We are challenged right now because we have seen post-pandemic that the behaviors of children throughout the state of California and the nation has been different. We're seeing children acting out in ways that we haven't seen before. So really focusing on what we can do through other means of correction, through help me out, Bart. Positive behavior support and vision, PBIS. Things we can do to help children to change their behavior. You know, we don't like to throw children away. We don't want to expel and suspend children. That is our last resort. But we want to change the child's behavior and provide the supports they need so that they can do better. So, you know, as far as learning, trying to get at that disruptive behavior so that we can focus more and more on our learning. And then, obviously, we just talked about making sure kids are back on grade level. So focusing on pull-out programs, focusing on tutoring programs, focusing on first teach, tier 1 intervention in the classroom, and really doing our best. And you know, I want to commend the work that our teachers do every day in the classroom, and all of our support staff and our leadership on our school sites, because we are facing in this time period the biggest struggle I think education has seen in the past 30 years. And really, the work we do now is so impactful on children's lives. Coming back from, you know, a pandemic and missing out on so much school, the work we're doing right now is so vitally important to our kids. I really want to commend the job everyone is doing. So making sure that we're getting them all caught up on their learning. So our next steps, this is, you know, talking about the 3-year strategic plan and getting input and trying to develop the new goals for the coming years. Obviously, we see that we want to feel mentally and physically safe. We want to address the whole child in the sense of not only academics, but of arts and music. We want our parents to be active partners with the student, with our schools and with our district. And we want our schools to address this disruptive behavior and continue to find intervention programs where we can change the behavior and also address the learning gaps that have occurred from the pandemic. And so these are things that, you know, this is a kind of a blueprint for moving forward as we move forward and continue to talk to our community partners, and we continue to talk to our students, and we continue to talk to our leaders and our staffs, and try to begin to develop new goals moving forward. These are the types of things we need to consider and think about. And so I look forward to continuing to speak with you on this topic as we move forward to develop our new 3-year strategic plan. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Well, it's great to see all the participation in that process and how much input we got from people across our district. So thank you to everyone who participated in that, and also look forward to all the work we can do to implement this in with our strategic plan. So great job with that. All right, next we have individual action items, superintendent. The first one I have to step out on.
I'll take over.
So go ahead.
All right, we have item 12. We have adoption of resolution 2022-2023-13 board compensation for missed meeting for Greg TP on October 4th. Anybody want a motion?
Motion.
Moved by Mrs. Grooms. Second by Mr. Nguyen. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Okay, item number 13. We'll get the new guy back. Welcome. Item 13. It was fun.
Okay, thank you. All right, next item 13, individual action items business. Adoption of resolution 2022-2314, resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Lancaster School District authorizing the issuance and sale of its general obligation bonds, election of 2012, Series 2022E, in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $7,305,092, and approving certain other matters relating to said bonds. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
By Mr. Giles, second by Mrs. Grooms. Any discussion?
Mr. TP, we have here this evening Emilio Flores from CFW. If you have any questions about the sale of this particular series of bonds, as you know, this is the last in the series for the 2012 election, and Mr. Flores is here tonight to entertain any questions you might have.
Should give him a question. It came all the way from. Hey, you can ask him on the drive.
Sisters have really educated us.
Maybe we can ask, why don't you come on up and just give us a little rundown on the.
Maybe the timing.
Certainly. Certainly, I can do that. So in terms of the overall timing schedule, following tonight's adoption of these documents, we will then move through the rating agency process, which the board is familiar with, which just like everyone else, the district has a credit rating. And depending on that credit rating, the market will then bid on the overall structure of the bonds. There is one important step that's still left after that, which is the county of Los Angeles will have to adopt its documents as well. That's occurring on November 15th. Shortly thereafter, we'll move forward with pricing the bonds on the open markets. One thing to be aware of is that there is going to be a Fed meeting on November 1st and 2nd. As we've encountered in the last few cycles, they continue to increase interest rates. And so we are cognizant of that. We do not believe that there'll be any adverse effects to them if they take that action in terms of our ability to issue the full sum of remaining authorization. But just to be aware of that we are anticipating that announcement on November 1st or 2nd regarding an additional increase in interest rates across the board.
All right.
Thank you very much for everyone at the firm that have helped us with this.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your patience. And I do take to heart the comment that we have done an extensive job educating over the given time. So I appreciate that.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, all in favor, say aye.
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 No.
Opposed?
Oh, good.
Oh,
Roll call vote.
roll call vote. Okay.
It's in the pen.
It's the wizard.
Okay, so we'll start with Mr. Wynn.
Aye.
Myself, aye. Keith? Aye. And Diane?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0.
Probably not the order she wanted. That's it.
Okay, next we have item 14, individual action items. Human resources, approval of assistant principal.
Jessica Pita.
And do we have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Diane Grooms, second by Mr. Giles. Any discussion?
Yes, thank you. We're pleased to present to you tonight for your consideration as the next assistant principal at Paiute, Jessica Pita, who has taught in the Lancaster School District since 2007. She's been an educator for 22 years. Jessica currently is a special education teacher, and she holds 2 master's degrees, one from CSU Long Beach in teaching and learning, and one from Concordia University in educational administration. Jessica is bilingual in Spanish and is well-versed in district initiatives and programs. She served on the PTA, School Site Council, Special Education Chair, and as an admin intern. Her principal describes her as organized, well-planned, a proponent of inclusion, talented, an invaluable resource, diligent, and collaborative. We are excited to present her to you tonight for your consideration as the next assistant principal in our district.
And with that, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Congratulations.
Jessica, I know you've got some very important people with you tonight. I met them earlier and they're excited about Cold Stone in a few minutes. But for now, would you please introduce them to us?
Welcome. Well, we're honored to have you.
Jessica, congratulations. And to your daughter, I just want to say it must be a gotta have it.
At least.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, congratulations. And next we have approval of assistant principal.
Joe LaMonaco.
And do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Keith, second by Diane. Any discussion?
Thank you. We're excited tonight to bring to you an experienced administrator to serve as our next assistant principal at Endeavor Middle School. Joe served as an administrator in Mojave, the Palmdale Aerospace Academy, and the Antelope Valley Union High School District. He has credentials in administration, biology, social science, and multiple subjects. He has a master's degree in educational administration and supervision from CSU Bakersfield, and he's currently completing a master's degree in curriculum and instruction. He's been described as being welcoming, passionate, organized, respectful, enthusiastic, knowledgeable, and engaging with students and staff. We are pleased to recommend for your consideration this evening, Joe LaMonaco as the next assistant principal at Endeavor.
And with that, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's an honor to join the all the students.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joe, and you might want to have Jessica take you out to Cold Stone. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. We're pleased to have both of you on board, and we look forward to working with you throughout this year. Yeah, congratulations. Thank you. All right, next we have addressing the board. Any individuals who wish to address the board may complete a speaker card and present it and any supporting documents to the deputy superintendent or other district official prior to the start of the meeting. Personal information such as a student, parent, guardian's name, address, phone number, date of birth, email address, or other directory information as defined in Ed Code 49061 may be excluded from the minutes of the meeting by submitting a written request to the superintendent. The board president shall recognize individuals who wish to speak. Individuals wishing to present testimony to the board concerning specific items on the agenda may do so once that item has been moved, seconded, and is on the floor for discussion. Time limits of 3 minutes per person and 20 minutes per item shall be allowed. Board bylaws 9322. And board members may ask questions for clarification purposes. However, no action may be taken and no discussion may take place on an item not on the posted agenda according to the Brown Act. First, we have comments from PTA, CSCA, TAL.
We have a comment from TAL. President Gina Whipple can't be with us this evening, but she writes, "Good evening, everyone. I hope all of you are well. I apologize for my absence. I am not feeling well after a booster shot. We are looking forward to our next meeting with the district team on Thursday, and we are hopeful that we can come to a resolution that is beneficial for all of us."
Great, thank you, Cal. Next, we have comments from the audience.
Yes, our first speaker is Christine Parkinson.
Good evening. Last school board, you mentioned that disciplinary actions cannot be disproportionate to any given race. What we know is that you give a slap on the hand to the most disturbances, giving zero consequences for a student's actions. With that, a student learns that they can continue to misbehave and be disrupted, offer verbal threats, and even unwanted physical advances. So if you have just one student that is repeatedly having outbursts and trying to express themselves in the name of social emotional learning, that individual is contributing time and time again for increasing the percentages for that child's race. So in theory, a disproportionate percentage of discipline can be attributed to only one student, therefore clearly not disproportionate. Your own survey shows that disciplinary issues are a huge concern for parents and staff alike. You may say that those higher than you at the state level have enacted newer laws that restrict your disciplinary procedures, such as SB 48, though an education code is clear that how discipline should be handled. But what I want to know is, have you voiced your concerns? Why haven't you said no? We won't follow these counterproductive guidelines. Someone's voice is a powerful tool. It can allow you to show your agreement or disagreement on any given topic. But by not using your voice, you are quietly agreeing with every policy that is put in place. And I'm speaking to everyone, the board, the teachers, the administration, the aides, the students, the parents. We need to stand up to this ridiculous agenda of social, emotional learning and positive support. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Carla Galvan.
Good evening, board and everyone here. I wanted to mention on the survey that Paul mentioned, there was a lot of comments about accountability and things going on in the school that has not been addressed. I wasn't going to speak today, but I can't stress enough how important accountability is. What you're showing these kids is outrageous. You have kids that are threatening their peers, being disrespectful to teachers, to aides, being rewarded. Kids that are not completing their classwork and homework being called to the counselor's office, coming back with pause. For example, this is a paw, and they're given at Westwood Elementary, and they're like, it's fake money that you can buy from the paw store, like toys, anything that the kids like. It says here that they're supposed to be given for good behavior, for acting responsible, working safely, showing respect. So I want to know, why are kids being rewarded for misbehavior? They're coming back to the classroom after misbehaving, back with this or something else in reward. All of you are wrong for rewarding this kind of behavior, for being accepting of this kind of behavior. Not only are you letting these kids down, but you're letting your good teachers that actually care to teach and your staff down. You are accepting the disrespect. Rewarding bad conduct shows the kids that are well behaved, that do put effort and complete their classwork and homework, that their effort is pointless. You are going to drive those well behaved kids, those kids that do care about their academics, to not care. You're going to drive them to do the opposite, since it gets well rewarded. You're failing these kids for catering to the ones that should be held accountable for their actions. Parents need to be informed that instructional time is being robbed from their kids due to constant disruption from the same kids that are not being held accountable for their bad choices. Parents need to know the potential danger that their children are in for threats that are not being taken serious. You have shown my children that speaking up on death threats is not the right thing to do, that staying silent gets you further. You think that by rewarding bad behavior, you're doing good, but all you're teaching these kids are that when they're adults, they can continue the same behavior.
30 seconds.
Paul, you are a weak man that is not willing to help fix this generation, but to keep destroying it. You need to go back to the district you came from. An individual with a strong character that believes in accountability, an individual that's for the children, not only for the ones that fit your agenda. Board members, all I have to say to you is fix this. Thank you.
Ms. Galvin, can I ask you a question? Did you speak to the principal about the pause being given to the student? No, I mean to the student who came back to the classroom. Well, And that I understand, but did you speak to Dr. Wood about that?
This is West Wind, so it would be
Wasn't it Westwind?
Michelle White.
Oh, I'm sorry. Michelle White about this?
Shouldn't be asking. So it's the whole. The next speaker is Mark Napolitano.
So I'm pretty sure that when all of you guys attended school, as well as myself and probably everybody in the audience, there was no such thing as social emotional learning. There was no such thing as critical race theory. I truly feel on my behalf, you could smirk all you want, bro. It's garbage. You know where kids get social emotional learning? The playground. Out of school activities, sports, right? Recess. These kids interact with each other on a daily basis. Just because this nonsense AB 2016 was passed by our government doesn't mean that you need to enact this garbage into your school. And just so you know, you actually are throwing children in the trash, Paul. Anybody can look up caasp-elpac.cde.ca.gov. Lancaster Elementary District for the year 2018-19. The ELA scores, level 1 for all grades, standard not met. Anyone want to take a stab? 42.69%. It's almost 50% of 9,325 students that don't know how to read or are struggling reading, right? They don't understand the concept of writing. Okay. Standard exceeded was 9.4%, and level 3 standard met was only 22.73%. Standard nearly met was 25%. You want to take a look at math scores? Level 1, again, standard not met, 55.29%. That's over half of the kids in elementary school do not know arithmetic. Okay? You want to talk about throwing kids away? That's wasting precious humans' lives.
1 minute.
If you think about it, okay? That's creating children that are not strong and ready for the world, as you stated, right? By doing such, you will be creating a generation of failures that will struggle to succeed in life. They can struggle with obtaining great careers and being successful adults. I highly suggest you utilize ASSER funds or sell off some of that 7.3 million bond money that you guys have and maybe look into some better tutoring classes and other things of that nature. Just to touch on, obviously for COVID, there was no testing, so 1920 was not available. And this year, or last year, 2021, in order to protect student privacy, data is suppressed because 10 or fewer students tested for ELA and math. You guys need to take a serious look at what's going on in your district. I'll be back to inform you about some more horrible things. Thank you.
Mr. Napolitano, just for clarification purposes, Dr. Marietti was just hired this year. Okay. Good.
And that concludes our speakers.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next we have consent agenda items, superintendent, items 16A to 16F. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by
Motion second.
Second by Mr. Wynn. Any discussion?
Yes, I'd like to pull item B from the agenda and vote on it separately?
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Nguyen to pull item B. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
A second by Giles. Okay, all in favor to pull item B for a separate vote, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, so we're going to be moving that to a
You're talking about the advertising one, right? Okay.
separate vote. Okay. Any other discussion?
Want to vote on the rest of them?
Okay, so we're going to start with items A through F, except for item B. So items A through F, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motions carry 4-0. All right, and now we have item B up for a separate vote. Approval of agreement with Lamar Outdoor Advertising. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Giles, second by Mr. Nguyen. Okay, any discussion?
So, in regards to the Lamar Outdoor Advertising, I was approached by Lamar Outdoor Advertising to renew our contract for both the digital billboards and the conventional billboards that are around our community. Our concern was as we move into a new 3-year strategic plan and we move into addressing or defining our new goals, we felt as though we should back off on our conventional billboards because they require to be produced and to just go with our digital billboards because they are at a much less cost that can continue to carry our message while we develop a new 3-year strategic plan. And once that new 3-year strategic plan is up and going, then to readdress our advertising. So that's kind of where we are.
But the contract is for like a couple of digital and like 3 or 4 regulars. That's what I thought I read.
4 digital and 1 digital freeway.
It's just the digitals.
They're all digital.
They're all digital.
I thought like there was like 4 or 5 that were standard. Now that's not, I read it.
No, we requested just the digital ones to keep our presence while we change over to, might be changing into a new message.
Okay, so the freeway one's just more expensive. Is that what?
The conventional ones, they have to be created. So
right. No, I get that. I guess I didn't understand the different costs, but I guess the freeway, the location, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
So would that be less expensive?
It will be less expensive, yes.
My only question is, would that affect, because we do have the student drug-free red ribbon billboards that are conventional each year. And
I don't believe is that connected? Not sure if that's connected to this.
Yeah, just wondering if that
I know they usually donate some of that space, but I don't, right. But I don't know if they donate all of it. That's why I was confused.
Yeah.
I think the rotating
would work too, I think.
Would work very well. I don't know that they can do the photographs, but they can certainly be changed more often. At different times of year, we have different messages to get out, like the universal pre-K program. How else can the community really learn about that unless we use more conventional communication methods like this? We don't have the strength of print media that we had, 20 years ago. So it is really dependent on our social media as well as our billboards.
We wanted to keep our presence. I will look into the Red Ribbon Week on the digitals. But we also wanted to take a pause and while we reset for the new 3-year strategic plan.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so this will be for just the digital advertising billboards at this time as we pause for the strategic plan.
Wayne, did you have specific questions?
I had one more question too.
I'm just, it's $40,000 that we spend. And I have to say that that's a large amount of money for advertising for 5 billboards or 6 billboards.
I agree. It's a large amount, and this was something that Lancaster School District has been doing traditionally, and so I was trying to continue the tradition, but in a more cost-effective way.
And we're looking at buying vans.
We have purchased 2, yes.
And I don't know if the $40,000 could go to cover the vans in advertising. Like
we could definitely put advertising on the vans.
I'm thinking of reducing the number of Lamar outdoor advertising signs. The one I think at 20th Street West on Avenue J seems to run long enough so you can almost read it while you're stopped at the stoplight. And the other ones, if you're doing a speed limit, you're not going to be able to see what it says. You're just going to go by it.
Yes, and my biggest concern regarding the billboards is there's no data. We don't know what type of impact the billboards are making within our community. So we can table this if you don't
want to table it and just
let's table it and have more. I can give you more information.
The question I had was, most of them are digital posters, and the one that's more expensive is a digital bulletin. I guess they do something different. It's bigger. Yeah. So I noticed it's at the freeway, but that's what confused me. I just assumed the other ones were just posters, but.
I also think that our wraps on vans and other vehicles is very wordy. It's not fresh education, primary in color, and I just think we could do a relook at that, and it would go along with our strategic plan.
Absolutely.
Messaging.
Absolutely. So I'd recommend we table it, and I'll get you some more information.
Yeah, I'd be interested. I know it's nice to have a presence out there in the community, and also as we're recruiting teachers and staff. So I know that's helpful for that too. So it'd be nice to get some feedback on that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Red Ribbon Week is being sponsored by Lamar, so that would go out.
Because we do other advertising.
Yeah. So got to think about that too.
So maybe just pull this for a future board meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. So on favor to pull this for a future board meeting? Say
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion carries 4-0. Okay. Okay, next we have consent agenda items business, items 17A to 17B. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Diane Groom, second by Mr. Nguyen. Any discussion?
I guess the question I had was, we typically approve exemptions for developer fees for schools and nonprofits.
That's correct.
I'm assuming we do.
There's a code that specifically authorizes the exemption.
Okay.
And that is for if it's used specifically for religious purposes, correct?
Not necessarily.
It can be any nonprofit can be apply for the exemption. The code, and I don't know the specifics of the code, but it lays out other exemptions. For instance, another exemption could be a retirement community,
right,
as a possible exemption. So the code does lay those out, and this does meet one of the elements of that particular code.
Would it the same apply if it was a bingo parlor?
Good question, Mr. Nguyen. I can't. I think we could still waive it if we wanted to. It's up to us, but I don't know if we're,
the board has the power to waive a fee, the developer fee, for any development.
Yes, because I know we waived them for other stuff.
That's correct. And although it's not recommended from attorneys, there are specific developments that are fully authorized for the board to waive that particular fee, and this does meet one of those elements.
Greg, if I'd like to pull this item H, from the agenda. And
Here we have
for a separate vote,
You want to just
motion.
table it for some more?
table it till we
I
get,
don't think it's necessary to table it. We have the information. A church is being built. I think we can have a separate vote.
Either
Okay.
way.
We
But I
have a
wouldn't table
motion by Mr. Nguyen to pull item H for a separate vote. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Nguyen, second by Keith Giles. All right. All in favor to pull item H for a second vote, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay. So motion carries 3-1. All right. So we still have items A through J for discussion, except for item H, which has been pulled for a second vote. Any further discussion on items A through J? Okay. All in favor of items A through J, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motions carry 4-0. Items A through J, except item H. Okay, next we have item H for a separate vote. Do we have any further discussion? All in favor of approval of exemption from developer school fees from Sacred Heart Church, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Item H passes 4-0. Okay, next we have item 18, consent agenda items, educational services, items 18A to 18K. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Keith
Second.
Giles, second by Diane Grooms. Any discussion?
I would.
I had a question when you get.
Go ahead, Keith.
Item I, the WeTip cloud-based reporting and management system, that's separate than what we voted on last time? Or is it just part of it?
No, we had tabled that to bring it back.
Oh, is that what it is? We just tabled it. We didn't vote on it. Okay, so it's, I could have sworn we voted on it. Okay.
What?
So we just tabled it. This is the same item. We did. Right.
It's a separate thing that works with Catapult.
Right.
Right.
It links it with Catapult.
But it's
Right. That's what it was. I knew I had a question, but I think that's what it was. It links with Catapult.
It links, yes.
They're just getting us for more now. It's give a mouse a cookie.
For sure.
But that's the beauty of it, is that it interconnects.
As long as they don't give me a bill next week. But yeah.
And also, I'd really like to agree with item B with bringing Jamal Brown back for the Black 365 Knowledge Bowl.
We're excited we can offer it in person this year. Hopefully will be, but that's what the plan is.
Good.
Great.
And that's for the Black 365. Will he be doing will we be looking at the Spanish one too?
Alicia was referencing that, and I don't know where that stands on the Latino 365 at this time, but the calendar is coming out for both that. And then we're also looking to see about possibly having competition with Palmdale at the end too. So some
good
possible extensions of the program.
Yeah, it's great to see the programs being brought back for the kids. Excellent. All right, any further discussion?
Well, I appreciate the work being done by your department, Bart. I'm worried that we're spending a lot of money on elevation. It seems to be a hall pass type thing.
Elevation.
Oh, that-
This is elevation is it's basically the power school for English learners. So we keep all of our data in there to support. So I was talking to Nayeli about it today, in fact, and she listed a number of great benefits from having elevation, which we've had a number of years now. They did get bought up by Curriculum Associates, so that's the integration piece. But our LPAC data is in there, our iReady data is in there. So we use that to pull information to support reclassifications. We use it for our FPM when they're asking for documentation. We can go and pull our documentation from there as well. So elevation is a real value added piece for us in terms of supporting the work with our English learners.
And without that data, we don't know that, whether a student is progressing or not. So I feel the value in having the software to support the learning advances so that we can progress them.
Yes, it's definitely a value added tool. It's on, it's green. I don't know.
Oh, it's just not very hot.
Okay.
Try the other one.
It's a value added tool that we use to support our English learners across the board, both in communication tools for parents. It has letters and supports that we can use to communicate information on our English learners out to families, in addition to supporting it when we work with our federal program monitoring and we need documentation pieces. We can pull it from there. And we also have LPAC data in there, our iReady data. So it's almost a one-stop shop to support our English learner work.
Okay. Any further questions, Mr. White?
I guess I was off on that. It's the EduSpire that is a hall pass.
Oh, that's just at New Vista. That is something that they've seen as a tool that they feel that they can use to help monitor logging and monitoring the time students are out of class in the hallways, to have better data on what's happening with the students being away from instruction and seeing and looking for trends. And Mrs. Curtis is in the audience too, and she could speak more about it if you'd like to hear more.
Whose responsibility is it to enter this information?
Well, let's have Mrs. Curtis speak to that. She's in the back, I believe. Mrs. Curtis, could you help answer the questions about how the site plans to implement and use staff to track the e-hall pass?
This is EduSpire, is that the one?
This is item 18E.
Okay.
Okay. What is your question?
Yeah, the participation in the EduSpire to, I guess, report somebody in the hallway or log them out of the class or whatever.
Okay.
Whose responsibility will that be?
So the e-hall pass is something we'd like to try at New Vista. We have a lot of our students that are roaming the hallways. We have in place right now that they use a planner and they get permission to go to the restroom, go to the nurse, go to the admin office, but it's not working for us because they lose their passes. We don't know exactly who is out. And so this is a program that Assistant Principal Cowan had at his last school site, and it was successful there. What we're hoping to see with this program is that we're going to be able to track how many educational minutes that they are missing by being out of their classroom. What we're finding is a lot of our students are using the restroom or going to the nurse every class period, sometimes twice a class period. So we really want to be able to track how many educational minutes that they're missing.
And who whose responsibility is it to enter the information?
It'll be mine. I'll be looking at the information. I'll be tracking. I'll be able to see. Another thing that came up just recently is we'll also be able to block, meaning that we won't allow a student to have a pass to be out at the same time somebody that they're having conflict with. That is something that happens at New Vista. And so this is another benefit of that, is that we'll be able to see which students are out. We'll be able to say if Tracy cannot be out with Joe because they're having conflict, so they can't meet up out in the hallway. We will be able to track if the student is always going out during period 3. And then I'll be able to have a conversation, or the counselor will have a conversation asking what's happening in period 3 that you need to be out every single day.
Okay. Is the teacher going to have to put this in the computer?
So it will be, we're going to get trained in it. But when I went through the demo, it is going to be either on their computers that most of them are using during their daily lessons, or they could have an iPad, or they can have one of their Chromebooks, and they can easily just tap it. All they have to do is tap it. We've also had a discussion with the teachers that they could have a bathroom monitor where a student is just kind of monitoring, kind of seeing if there's a request for the bathroom pass. All it is a tap.
Okay. But it is a task that the teachers will have to do, tap the computer.
If they would like to do it, or they could have a bathroom monitor person, which they already do. A lot of our classrooms have a student that monitors when a student is leaving the classroom. They make sure that the student writes the time and the date that they're leaving. We had a discussion with the teachers, and they are on board with it. They keep on asking me, when is this going through, Tracy? When can we put this in place? And again, it's something for us to try out, because we really want to make sure that we're protecting our students' instructional minutes.
And like I said, I appreciate that, because I know New Vista is a great school, and both my daughters went there. So I want to keep it a great school. I'm just worried that we keep adding on to the teachers' responsibilities, and
well, they would have to write out a hall pass anyway. This sounds like a little bit easier process.
Right. Currently, they're writing in the student agenda planners. And so every single time a student has to go use the restroom, they're writing in the planner. And so this way, all it is a tap.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ms. Curtis.
Any other questions? No?
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Sounds like a great program, and we look forward to hearing how it's working. All right. Any further questions or discussion about items E through K? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motions carry 4-0. But actually, that was items A through K. Okay. All right, next we have item 19, consent agenda items, human resources services, items 19A to 19D. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Nguyen.
Second.
Second by Diane Grooms. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motions carry 4-0. Item 20, consent agenda items, innovation and technology services, items 20A to 20C. Do we have a motion?
Second.
Moved by Keith Giles, second by Diane Grooms. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Items Pass 4-0. Okay, next we have legislative and policy discussion. Okay, any discussion? All right, that moves us on to comments from the board. And we'll start with Mrs. Groves.
All right. I want to thank the district for helping the children at Fulton and Alsbury, the 7th grade class, to arrive at Edwards Air Force Base on Friday. It was a spectacular show. They were very engaged. I thought the STEM building was one of the better presentations that I had seen at an air show. And if they didn't know anything new about aerospace just by walking down, I mean, in the first 2 minutes that they were at the flight line, the sonic boom started right overhead. And they were extremely excited. The 6th grade class was surrounding Dr. Gladfelter saying, "When can we go? When can we go?" So it was fun, and they were extremely well behaved. And it was a pleasure to be there. I also want to make this announcement for the public. This is our board meeting, and we have a right to expect certain behaviors, and that includes proper respect for our staff and proper use of their titles or Mr. and Mrs. And I would expect that in the future.
Okay, thank you, Diane. Keith?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mariotti, for the presentation about the thought exchange. I guess that's going to get us started on our 3-year plan. Appreciate that. Thanks to our speakers. And what Diane said, I do think we need to be cordial and respectful when we're addressing our people. We can all say our views without being disrespectful. So with that, I'm looking forward to my back to school. Well, not back to school. What do they call that? Parent teacher conferences. Starting that tomorrow. I have 3 kids in the district and 1 not. So I get to go and start that tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to that. So hope and see how we're doing. All right. With that, I'll pass it on.
Thank you, Keith. Mr. Wynn?
Yeah. Congratulations to Miss Tita and Mr. Lamonico for becoming our new assistant principals. Mr. Lamonico's reputation has preceded him, and I've heard nothing but good things about him and also about Miss Tita. So I suspect Paiute and Endeavor will really enjoy having them there. Thank you for bringing them on board. And Lexi, it's a good thing. And let's see, the thought exchange, great. Over 1,000 submissions. And I can tell who must have written the most if the number 1 item was give teachers a raise. Well, it's good to know that our employees are right up there at probably 50% of the submissions, not only for what's going on in our school district, but what's going on at their schools. And it sounds like we've gotten quite a few very good suggestions on the thought exchange. So let's keep it up. Fulton Holsbury at the air show, and also Endeavor at the air show. Both schools had very good students. Let me tell you something. I was at the air show in the robotics event all 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And the number of students that were walking through that air show, through the STEM tent, which included our schools, but schools from as far away as San Luis Obispo, Oceanside, Fresno. These students came there, enjoyed it. And the one thing I can tell you, and this was talked about by quite a few of the attendees, Northrop, Lockheed, the robotics group, is the kids weren't on their cell phones sitting in the corner trying to text people or text this. If they were on their cell phones, it was taking pictures and not communicating with each other, which to me means we need more of these type of events in the Antelope Valley. It's a strong argument for keeping the kids active. Will definitely keep them from just sitting on their cell phones. So it was great. F&A did great. Endeavor did great. And the fact that they didn't use the cell phones is good. And then finally, Rebecca, keep that attendance, doing what we're doing. Whatever we're doing great. Increase again of 42 just from the last board meeting. That's great. And I can only hope that we continue like that until we reach 16,000. And we're almost to the 15,000 level. So it all helps with the likes of Mr. Coleman out there. Yes, sir. And Mike Davis. Getting our teachers, getting our staff, hiring them on, bringing them aboard. We need them. And you guys are doing a great job of bringing them here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Witt. And Ms. Grooms had one more
Yes, I
thing to add.
wanted to point out, I went to the literacy fair on Saturday. It was a fabulous event. The kids were so engaged and the parents were, they brought the whole family. And you could see a lot of the younger kids, and I think that's exactly what the event was designed to do. And they were running all over this entire educational center here, and very, very engaging. And it looked like they were having a lot of fun. So thanks, team.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I'd also like to say it's so super exciting to see the air show come back to Edwards Air Force Base. I know the last one they had was at Fox Airfield, and that was also really well attended. And it's great just to get the families and the kids aware of all the aerospace we have available here in our valley. And it's just amazing how much Rockwell, Lockheed, out at Edwards Air Force Base, and those are great careers based in science and engineering. So it's great that we get families aware of that. And the more we can do that, the better. It was also neat to see that field trips was one of the high points on the thought thing, and that we can start doing those again. I would like to look into see if we can get some field trips out to Edwards Air Force Base and some of these other places that were part of the air show. That would be great for the kids. Yeah, great input. And it's nice to see too that there's a lot of continuum with look at safety, look at academic rigor. And I know coming back from COVID, those are high areas. We are seeing a lot of behavior issues, as been mentioned by parents, different things. I know it's not just in our district. I know hearing things across the country, across our state, it's everywhere. It's not just in our district. And also with the rigor, there's been a huge drop because of kids being locked up and doing virtual school. That third grade and other grades that are normally teaching a certain level are now doing makeup and trying to bring these kids up to where they should be at. So I encourage you parents to continue giving us input. Hopefully we'll start having our community forums where we can start getting even more input for our strategic plan, because we did mention that we're going to be taking this information and building our strategic plan. So we want to use that to build it up. And also, some good points were made tonight. I know one of them with the PAW, we do need to make sure that those are given to students that are well behaved. And so we can take a look at that and make sure that those are just given out as rewards and kind of revisit that. I know we had to do that at our site because it's just a program that's fluid, but it can get, where it's not being used properly. So we do need to do that. And also another thing too that was mentioned tonight, and I had noticed it myself, is when these county figures come out, they look at percentages. But when so then they deem schools for the percentages, but then when you study the percentages, and we were doing this too, sometimes those high percentages are from repeat students. So it might look like a high number, but when you look at it, it's only a few students that are actually doing that. So I don't know if there's any way we could talk to the county about that or kind of do a little study on that. But sometimes the numbers look high, but they're actually the same students that are doing the same thing repeatedly. So that's something we do need to look into too. But great board meeting. Looking forward to more input. And Dr. Marietti.
Thank you. I want everyone to know that the Lancaster School District and me personally value people's opinions. We care and appreciate all the voices we hear, whether that be through a survey or sitting down and meeting with individuals and taking the time to hear them. You don't always have to agree with each other, but we want to understand the person's why and value their opinions. We care about that, and we seek to understand, and we seek to listen, and we seek to learn. So we have no animosity towards individuals who criticize us. Matter of fact, we can learn from criticism and we can grow from it. But sometimes the voices you hear are only the angriest voices, and sometimes the voices you hear are only the loudest voices. So tonight, I'd like to share with you another voice. And this is from a parent who came to our Family Fall Literacy Festival on Saturday. And this is what she wrote. We went to this, and it was such an awesome event. My daughter and I shouldn't say the name. My daughter and I got to engage with one another in a way that we usually don't do at home. Looking at books, meeting authors of those books, which I appreciate. Her favorite part was the face painting, but the self-portrait part was mine. This definitely made our bond stronger. I'd like to be part of this event, of more events like this. I think it's really important for parents and their kids to spend time together. It's memorable. Watching her eating her hot dog after the activities, I realize that she's grown so much. And I don't want to miss sharing her childhood and making it great. So thank you. So I want to thank Bart and his educational services, and Krista Thompson and CIO, and specifically Tara Goins, and all the people who every single day come to work because they want to do good things for children. And I think every single person in this room can agree that we all want to do good things for children. And we may not always agree with how to go about that. But until we come together as an educational community, and until we push all in the same direction for our children, nobody in this room has a bad heart. Nobody in this room doesn't care about kids. So I challenge all of us to continue to come together as an educational community, to listen to each other even when listening is hard, to learn from each other and grow, and to be the great school district that we are and will continue to be. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. And with that, we are going to reconvene or adjourn at 7:18. We have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Nguyen, second by Mr. Giles. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. And with that, we will be moving into our community forum.
What do we do this week? Don't be that. We'll all get about it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is the PowerPoint going to be run by Brandon? Brandon's got it. He's got the. Okay. Thank you, Brandon. Do you want to open it up? It's hard to. Am I doing the agenda and then giving it to you at the? Oh, if you want to, if you just manage. So I'll do that, and you do that. Got that right? Not gonna reply. I mean, they're going to vote on it. They're going to want. Are you going to put the screen up? You want to shut down school? We'll put it down school. Be a bad idea, but maybe it's well done. I don't understand that things. Well, I do, but I don't want to believe it.
Now, do we all go?
Yeah. Yeah. You're done? All right. So welcome to our first of the year community forum. We're excited to be here. So thank you, board, community, everyone online. Our focus tonight is to talk about attendance and social emotional learning. And social emotional learning is more complex than sometimes we give credit for, because when we're talking about in ed services is really trying to address the whole child. And we know that in addressing the whole child, we need to consider what are they coming to school with? What's on their hearts? What's on their minds? Because it sometimes and oftentimes and directly impacts their academics. So we have to really look at everything that impacts the child coming into the school. And so today we're going to dig into some of that a little bit further, and hope as we talk about seeking, we're going to seek to understand better. And so today I'm joined with Dr. Jordan Goins, who is our Director of Continuous Improvement, Compliance and Accountability, Ms. Kimberly Cochran, our Director of Pupil Safety and Attendance, and Ms. Trish Wilson, our Coordinator of Climate, Culture, and Counselors. Give you back one. Okay, forward one. There, thank you. So our learning intentions and success criteria for this evening, under learning intentions, it's our intent that Lancaster staff and families will learn how Lancaster School District is prioritizing and supporting social emotional learning and advancing student well-being. And our success criteria for that, how we know we'll be successful, is when staff and families will be able to understand the various pieces of data that help shed light on the current safety efforts in our schools. And staff and families will be able to provide informed feedback at the end here today regarding safety for this district to help take some next steps. Next slide. Thank you. So our agenda, we'll do a brief introduction of some topics. We're going to dig into our youth truth data, and we'll dig into the responses to that data. And then we will empower our families at the end to go further with that by getting feedback. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Goins now to talk about our mission vision.
Okay. So first of all, to begin, I want to thank you so much for giving us the opportunity. I know it's late tonight. I'm really looking forward to being able to provide some of this information to you and really get us started on that process. We've already started with our strategic planning with Dr. Marietti and the Thought Exchange. We got to thank you for bringing that to the district. That's something that's giving us some options and giving us a way to be able to really reach out to our families in ways that we haven't been able to do in the past. So I want to start us off with remembering and reminding us of what our vision, what we do in Lancaster School District, and why we do what we do in Lancaster School District. I want to make sure everybody realizes that our mission has not, our vision has not changed. Our vision is to provide relevant, high quality education with an inclusive and culturally respectful environment, preparing all students for personal and professional success. And that being our mission, and our vision being to create options and excellence in education, empowering all students to reach their full potential. So those are the pieces that we still ascribe to in Lancaster School District, and we continue to ascribe to in Lancaster School District. And moving into I would say the next, I guess the comeback, for lack of a better term, the return to schools and really being able to do what we've done over the past. One of the main pieces that we've really noticed was the need to have to focus on social emotional learning. The reason that we're seeing this, you're going to see some of the data that goes and discusses why we're looking at this particular area now, and why we really need to focus this area right about now. And I'm going to give you some of the ideas and some of the steps that we've taken already to be able to move this forward. Both myself, Kim, or Ms. Cochran, as well as Miss Trish. are going to be providing us all with a good solid understanding of all of those pieces that are fitting into what we're doing right now. So I want to focus us on in this particular piece. We're going to be looking at equitable learning practices, positive learning environments today. That is that big yellow goal in the middle, as well as the safe and supportive environments. Those are going to be the actions that we're really focusing on in terms of our work tonight. And we will be getting into some significant data. So I want to open this up by discussing a little bit about our Youth Truth Survey. Last year, 2022, in February 2022, the last school year, we had the opportunity to really reach out to our families and have a deep and stronger understanding of where they come. We do this once a year when we provide this survey to our families. This accompanies some of the other pieces that we've done that we're currently doing, and kind of explains a little bit of where we were and how to a degree there was a little bit of an understanding as to where we were going to be heading in 2020, in this school year, in the 22-23 school year. So I want to make sure that we have this all wrapped in. So I'll click. Some of this youth truth data that we're going to be talking about, what are we measuring as outcomes? We really focused in this particular area on what we would be considering. And I say that I don't want to say this wrong, but I want to make sure it's understood with the right amount of complexity that actually sits there. We talk about some of the pieces that we're measuring as being soft skills, but these are not soft skills. These are the skills that are going to provide our students with the true goals, or the true tools to be successful in life, and those pieces that allow them to be able to do to be able to be successful in their job, the workplace, wherever they happen to be. So we are going to be focusing on culture, belonging, and relationships in terms of our elementary schools. Culture means the degree to which students experience an orderly, respectful classroom. Belonging means the degree to which students feel welcome at their school, so how a student feels welcome at their school. And relationships mean the degree to which students have strong, supportive relationships with their teachers. So the reason that we chose these at the elementary level was because these are all pieces that tie right back to that whole idea of student connectedness. So research, evidence, anything that you want to talk about, if you read any educational articles, our own state board of education, and many of the great authors in terms of educational research, educational leadership, all focus back on the idea of connectedness to the school site. If a student doesn't feel connected to the school site, you're going to see more behavior. If you see more behavior, you're going to see more time outside of class. You see more time out of class, you're going to see less academic achievement. So that is a huge piece. And that's evident because if you look at COVID-19, we were all gone from school for so long. And one of the pieces that was lacking was that connectedness piece that we consistently talk about. So that second piece for our middle schools, we're going to be focusing on student culture, belonging, and peer collaboration and relationships. So the change and the difference and the only real nuance here, and you all have this in front of you, but that nuance here is that belonging and peer collaboration. When we start talking about that peer collaboration piece, remember, students need to, it's almost like that, it's some of the great philosophers, Foucault and them would say, it's like, you got to see the other. It's like, once you see the other, you have to be able to come back at me and be able to see it. May not have been Foucault. Please don't check me on that. Dr. Freeze. Not yet. Catch me tomorrow. It might be. All right. So with that said, and so I can hurry back before Dr. Freeze Googles my wrong answer. One of the things I wanted to make sure we pointed out some of that significant data that we're talking about. I'm not going to go over every piece of this because you have it in front of you. But what I am going to do is I'm going to highlight a couple pieces that we found interesting. And we reviewed this in our district site leadership team just last Thursday and have come up with some ideas as to how we might be able to respond moving forward. So for our middle school students, one of the interesting pieces that I wanted to point out here was that discipline is that they said that 32%, so you understand what this is saying. When I say 32%, I'm saying 32% of students responded positively. Okay? So when I say that discipline in this school is fair, 32% responded positively that they believe that discipline in this school or whatever school they go to happens to be fair. So that's very important to understand. So these are percent positives. So I want to point that one out. So when we're talking about this is a measure that speaks to culture, 32% of our elementary or our middle school students would say that discipline in their school is fair. And well, on the bottom where it says students from my school treat adults with respect, 24% of students who reported said that students from their school treat adults with respect. So if you look at the elementary level, we talk about, do students behave well in your class? 17% of students responded, and this is last year, the end of last year. 17% of students responded in the affirmative in saying that students behave well in class. All right. So that's for culture. We start talking a little bit about relationships, which is a huge piece to the academic. One of the big pieces to the academic, just the academic environment, is that ability to relate from one to another. With specific student groups, it's extremely important that they feel that they have a relationship with somebody else at their school. It's extremely important, specifically in adult. So the first one I want to point out for middle school students, or the only one I'm going to point out for middle school students, is how many of your teachers try to understand what your life is like outside of school. 27% said that this responded to the affirmative here. Now I want to point out that and remind everybody here that this is all about perception. This is what students perceive at this particular point in their particular point in their educational career in middle school. So I want you to remind yourself what you were like when you were in middle school. I'm not going to remind you what I was like in middle school. I was not the guy. But let's remind us. But I want to think about who you were in middle school at this particular time. And this is 27% saying that how many teachers try to understand what their life is like. They feel like that there's somebody who may not be doing that for them. Elementary school students, we look at something very similar. Does your teacher treat you with respect? Elementary school, check it out. This is where families really, or where students really do feel that they have that they feel like they're being respected they feel that respect back and forth from their teacher, and they therefore give it back. Do you think teachers care about you? We said 82%. That's anything over 80% positive is what I'm kind of aiming for here, because that means that the majority is like, yeah, that's probably what is happening. That's definitely a solid perception all the way around. So this piece having to do with belonging and peer collaboration describes the degree in the middle schools as to which students feel welcome at their school and have collaborative relationships with their classmates. For this one, I really feel like a part of my school's community. And again, this gets to the heart of connectedness. 41% of students in the middle school say that they feel like they are part of their school's community. And then in the elementary schools, it jumps up to 56%. Which makes a lot of sense, because remember, when kids are young, they're malleable. I've got my own kids. This is the same type of thing. They're very malleable. They love everything that's going on around them at that time. So jumping to this one, school safety. This jumps in. This is a different one. It talks about. I feel safe from harm in the hallways. 48% in middle school say they feel safe from harm in the hallways. So this is at the school level. But then look at and I think one of my colleagues pointed out at DSLT last week that look at the fact that you have 84% of students only 84% of our students feel safe at home. And 71% do not feel safe in their community. So those are some pieces that think about the emotional relationship, or the emotion that gets tagged along to that particular piece in Lancaster right now. Elementary schools, do you feel safe during school? 61% say that they feel safe during school. And then finally, do you feel safe going to school? So on your way to school, 69% of our students say that they feel safe going to school. So suspensions and expulsions, at this particular point in time, we're at 22-23. There's about 230 out of school suspensions. In school suspension, about 250. So we've got about 494 total incidences of being separated from the classroom at a particular point in time. So to say that we aren't working that end of it is actually true. We are doing that work. That's actually happening. And if you look at it, we've decreased our time between 2019-20. We had just a little over 1,365 out of school suspensions, and then in 21-22, 1,200, just around 1,200 and a half, so 1,233. So that's there. So that's in terms of our actual data in terms of or hold on, let me take that back. Is actually in terms of our data between suspensions and expulsions. So the actual idea of being able to separate a student from the academic environment. And again, we know what we get when we separate a student from the academic environment. You can't learn if you're not in school. If our theory of action is that our teachers that we can teach, and that when a kid is in school they learn, if that's our theory of action, then we need to understand that we need to have as many kids in school as often as possible. Which means we have to find some other means of correction. Attendance overview. This is where we're at right now. So this is a week by week comparison. So you'll see in the beginning of the school year, we were at like 94% attendance, which was actually pretty respectable considering where we've been in the past, and still understanding COVID-19 still lingers. We're still there's still those pieces that we're where we have to do what we have to do here, where there's students having to be separated for specific reasons. These 89 and 88%, my friend Mr. Hume, actually when we looked at this, we determined that time period, those 2 weeks those were the two hottest weeks of the school year that we've had so far. So understanding that, it kind of shows you that when weather kind of hits, and again, it shows you the vulnerability of the students and for which we serve. So we have to really keep that in mind, that there's external influences that are consistently going to be acting upon them. So our chronic absenteeism rate right now currently looks as though we have 32% of our students who are chronically absent, with 8% nearly chronic. So chronically absent means they've missed 10% of the school year today. So at the end of the school year, if there's 186 days, the minute that they've gotten to that 18 to 19, that's when we're running into some more significant. We're running into the problem of them. They will be considered chronically absent by the end of the year, if that's the case. So with that said, I'm going to turn this wonderful thing over to Ms. Cochran, and she's going to provide you with some information as to what we're doing to be able to combat some of the data that we're seeing right now. Just put that one. Yes.
Speak to them. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Goins. So again, this first slide really discusses how we're targeting supporting students and their attendance, supporting families, and removing barriers in many cases. We're working very closely building up site attendance teams at every single one of our school sites with some strong collaboration. Administrators are part of that site attendance team. We also have counselors. And I'll get into the rest of that in just a minute. We have an attendance challenge that's continuing this school year, and then also attendance interventions. There we go. So again, the campaign is less than 5. We know that when students are in school, there's a strong correlation to reading and mathematics skills. There's been many studies done, not just in California, but across the nation, that when students hit 95% attendance and they hover there or greater, they have a much stronger chance of reading at grade level and being able to compute math skills at a 3rd grade level by the end of the 3rd grade school year. But again, it starts in kindergarten. And that's where we need to focus our efforts as well as kindergarten and 1st grade. Our attendance teams are comprised of our school counselors, our family ambassadors, the office assistant in charge of attendance. Our school nurses are also part of these teams because we know that many times there's some sort of an illness or perhaps asthma or diabetes that students and families need support with to prevent some barriers, getting success in terms of reaching out to medical staff that families might not readily be available to connect with, where then we have those resources to connect them, our school psychologist, and again, a site administrator. Part of this work is also completed by Crystal Rojas, our counselor and special assignment with a focus on attendance. She's created an attendance team checklist where each member of the team has a great understanding of their role on the team, and especially in respect to family contact every single day with a live person. Yes, our robocalls still go out because there are some cases where we've got clerical absences, counselor absences, and they're not able to make those live calls. But on the routine, the day-to-day, everybody in this group is reaching out to our families with a live personalized phone call to check in, let families know that we've missed their child today. Is there anything we can do to help them get back to school the next day? In addition to that work, Crystal's also created a team template and agenda that's been shared out with our attendance teams. They complete that agenda weekly and then submit that back to Crystal so she has follow-up with them in case there's any questions before we visit again. We started off the school year, Crystal and I both going out to the school sites to help establish the attendance teams, and then we scheduled 6 to 8 week follow-up times to circle back to ensure that they're able to follow those processes. They've got their attendance conferences scheduled, because through this work we also build up to our work with the district attorney's office, which is our ACT program, abolishing chronic truancy. We also go to the SART process and then eventually the SARB process through the school district office with a panel representation. We're targeting excused and unexcused absences because we know that as students continue to accrue absences, whether they're excused or unexcused, it's still hurting their education. And so we want to work with our families again to prevent and remove those barriers from their education and getting those students the services that they need and in school every day. We also utilize a lot of school and home communication. Again, that's live calls. It's also home visits when we can't reach parent by phone. We invite families in to explore reasons for attendance and the ways that we can support them to help them get their children to school. Sometimes it's a gas card. Sometimes it's a city bus pass for middle school students to help them get to school and get to school on time. Other times it's a connection from the school nurse, building that contact with free services in the community to help a student get the medication they need to treat their asthma so they can return to school, or helping them to get that doctor's note of services to be provided at the school site when we're talking about a student with diabetes. There's a long list of examples that I could go on and on about. Just wanted to share a few of those that we've supported this school year. We also have attendance contracts and again, parent conferences to address the issues of poor attendance and to help rebuild that student's connection to the school site and to get them back in the seats. And again, I mentioned we have the process of ACT where we utilize our services through the district attorney's office, SART, and also SARB, the SARB panel at the district level. This is an example of an attendance achievement chart that has the direct correlation to students who have great attendance, they're proficient and exceeding expectations with the standards. And then it begins to dip into like a tier 2 category for students who are beginning to display a lack of attendance at school, right on down to chronic absenteeism, where there's a very difficult chance of that student getting on grade level when they've missed so many days of the school year. We're currently utilizing this chart with our school counselors, our administrative teams, where when they're in their meetings with their parents, working with students and parents to remove barriers, we can easily check the boxes on this particular form in Google, and it will show the parent exactly where their student falls to date in terms of, are they on target to be proficient by the end of the school year? Are we looking at tier 2 strategies or possibly tier 3 where they're chronic and not going to have the opportunity to reach their grade level proficiency? So it's been a great tool to use. In addition to that, we also focus on incentives. We're trying to pick up the increments of focusing on weekly incentives for our students across the school district, also supporting education of parents and students about the grave importance of being at school every day. Every day that's missed is a day of reading and mathematics instruction that child has now fallen behind on. My own personal children and I had a discussion in high school that when I don't feel good, you take the temp, there's no vomit, there's no anything else for bodily fluids, you're going to school. And then that one day when they were sick and they had to stay home, missing one day of school for them in high school made it feel like they'd missed a week. And so helping parents to understand, even in elementary school, missing one day, it's very difficult to come back from that the next day feeling unprepared. Many students are on edge when they return to school after a day of absence because they've missed something and now they feel behind and they just want to escape that. So trying to educate our families and helping them understand the grave importance of being in school every single day and the true outcomes that good attendance can have on reading and mathematics skills. Again, utilizing individualized outreach efforts. When we are one-to-one with families, or we're either on the phone, we're in a WebEx meeting online, or we're going to the home to do a home visit, we learn a lot about our families. We learn a lot about our students, and then we're better equipped to help remove barriers to help those kids get to school. Additionally, I've kind of given the precursor on this, that in some of those individualized meetings with families, we've learned about children and families who need better access to healthcare. And we're able to provide those resources to those families. And another piece that came out of our research with our own families and across the state too, is that a lack of safe routes to school and reliable transportation is also another barrier that we want to look at and see what we can do to help get our students who live further away from our school sites transportation to get to school every day and home. And then next, I would like to ask my colleague, Miss Wilson, to come on up and talk about social emotional learning.
Okay. So, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Trish Wilson. I'm the coordinator of climate culture and counselors for the district. And I am so proud to be part of a district that prioritizes social emotional learning. And just to give an overview of what it's all about, it's not only skills that we're teaching our students to be good students and successful students in school, but it also produces good citizens and good people in society when they get older. Students that are able to hold a job and work with people and get along with others and express their differences respectfully. All of these skills are part of social emotional learning. Understanding other people's feelings, having empathy for others, problem solving in a social sort of like group, and be able to express their emotions appropriately instead of just, reacting to situations. So all of these things are part of social emotional learning. Of course, social emotional learning is under the umbrella of positive behavior interventions and supports, also known as PBIS. And with that is also capturing kids' hearts, which are all the strategies that we use to develop a positive school climate, as well as relationships with adults and peers at school. We promote social emotional learning through community circles. So our teachers use community circles for not only talking about good things with capturing kids' hearts, but they also use it for academic purposes, giving every student the opportunity to speak and to be heard and to be included in the school community, and to have a voice. And that's really important. Also, our teachers for 7 years now have been teaching Second Step, and that's our social emotional learning curriculum. All of our teachers teach lessons every week in social emotional learning, and in elementary school, there are follow-up activities that happen every day to reinforce that lesson of the week. The teachers also have supplemental social emotional learning tools. So if they see that their students are struggling with a certain skill, such as conflict resolution, for example, then they can tap into additional videos and Nearpod lessons and other social emotional learning tools. Our counselors provide classroom lessons based on data, and I'll go into the data that we're using in many of our schools in a moment. But they look at what the office discipline referrals are for, and where the targeted needs are for each classroom, and then they provide lessons. A district-wide elementary school SEL program that we are using is Kelso's Choice. And that teaches students conflict resolution skills. It teaches them options that they are able to use when they are confronted with a difficult situation, usually in an unstructured situation. They're also doing bullying prevention lessons, which is important for our school climate as well, and making sure that students know not only what to do if they feel bullied, but what to do if they're watching it and they're a bystander, and that they have a voice and choices that they can make instead of standing by and watching it happen. Our counselors also provide small group counseling, and that is offered to students who need more support than the classroom level lessons or the lessons from the teachers and from the counselors. And then finally, we provide individual counseling for students that need even more support, just to make sure that they have that one-on-one support from the counselor. And we also refer the students to our school-based mental health agencies. This is the second year that we have provided social emotional learning assessments. And they're called cell web assessments. At 10 of our schools, we are doing the assessments this year, and they're Paiute, Amargosa Creek, Mariposa, Lincoln, Sunnydale, Sierra, Monte Vista, Miller, and then also the Leadership Academy and RISE. We administered a fall assessment, and we will be administering a spring assessment as well. We're looking at students' ability to apply their skills in understanding others, social problem solving, social perspective taking, and self-control. With these assessment results, we are getting back the results right now from the fall administration, and we're using these results to monitor our SEL instruction effectiveness, to make sure that what we're teaching the students is making a difference in their ability to perform in these areas. Also, we're determining what strength areas our students are demonstrating so that we can build on those strengths and use those strengths to help compensate for some of the weaknesses. And then finally, we're using those assessment results to provide targeted support for students who need additional support in a specific area, either through another classroom lesson from the counselor, or maybe the teacher going back and reteaching a lesson that's relevant to the student's needs, providing group counseling or even individual counseling. So we're really excited about the cell web assessments, and we're hoping to see a lot of growth in the spring. So I am going to turn it back to Dr. Goins, and he's going to finish up the presentation.
Okay, so I want to reiterate, there's a lot of work that's been going into where we're headed, this particular school year, the 22-23 school year, and I don't want to go without, just even on the safety side of the house, really looking at the fact that we've identified safety concerns, and we're starting to take care of safety concerns. If you look at some of our front offices, things are happening in that particular area, in those areas, and things are being addressed being addressed quickly as we're seeing them come about, and that's a huge degree to the people who have been able to identify the concerns, which is huge. That's a big deal. The amount of time, just the idea of having pop-ups over, not pop-ups, but big canopies over at schools like at our TLA and Rise, and over at Discovery, and then over at Linda Verde, has been a significant support to the schools that we haven't done in the past. And it's a great opportunity for us to show that we are actually, when we're seeing the issues, we're listening to them. So what ended up happening was we did have our district site leadership team just recently, and that was Thursday. And this is some of the work that came out of that district site leadership team, and some of the work that we're going to continue to do as we move forward. And you're going to see this come back and back and back and back, because this is the work that that we really feel needs to be happening right now in Lancaster School District. Full court press here. So to address behaviors in schools, one of the pieces that we're looking to try to work through is deep student-centered data dives into identifying root causes. One of the things that was really significant that came about through the work that we did on Thursday last week in our DSLT was that we were looking at individual students and identifying what we were trying to look towards. How can we identify root causes or functions of those students' behaviors, or the reasons as to why they were acting in such a way that they may be that they are acting and exhibiting the behaviors that they're exhibiting. That doesn't say don't discipline and don't do those pieces, but what it is saying is how after the discipline has been meted out, how do I come back and be able to work with that student so that it doesn't happen again? That's the focus of that work. Another piece is start small, develop systematized, preventative and responsive behaviors, actions, and communication methods to keep everyone within the system working with the students informed. This is the idea that we really need to, at the school site level, really, when we see an issue, when we see a student exhibiting behaviors and having serious problems, we really need to wrap our arms around them. We need to figure out how we can support them, but not just support them, even support those students when things have happened to them, to make sure that they're supported as well. It goes both ways. The last piece is identifying people and training needed to implement the systems. We do know that we have a lot of great people doing a lot of good work. We want to make sure that we all recognize what that work is, be able to move forward. To address attendance in schools, clarify, monitor, and communicate systems of supporting attendance, making sure that we are very clear in what we're looking for and how we're looking for it and how we're reading it, and really coming back with the data so that we can really understand what the next steps are. Then we need an electronic way to clear absences, to shift to spending more time connecting with families and students who are absent. So that turns into the idea that what we're really focusing on is we're really looking towards trying to figure out how can we get parents to a position where they can easily clear absences, be able to work that piece out. But then on top of that, how can we get that out of the way so we can start supporting the students who are absent? And then finally, more staff have access to comprehensive data systems. So years ago, we purchased a data system we currently call the Lancaster Interactive Dashboard. You might remember it as Who Knew It. So this is something we are going to bring back to you on a consistent basis, that we're going to bring back to you so that we can show the board as to, what it is and how to work with it. And because you should see what that data looks like. In fact, you saw a piece of that data in the attendance data. We were able to monitor attendance on a daily basis, weekly basis at least, and then behaviors and all those other pieces on a consistent basis, because it's all rolled into our student information system, Power School, that we work with. So the final piece that I want to leave us with tonight, and I appreciate your time, Ms. Cochran, Ms. Wilson, Mr. Hoffman have all worked hard. We've all worked hard to try to find solutions to the situations that we're seeing. This is going to be a question that's going to go out. Actually, it was scheduled to go out tonight at 7:30, but the board meeting went a little long. So what we ended up doing is we're scheduling it for tomorrow morning to go out to everybody. The question is, where should we focus our efforts to ensure students feel connected to the Lancaster schools that they attend? So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be asking that question, a thought exchange question that's going to be going out via text, via email, to receive information, and we will be reporting that information back to the community and back to everybody here. Obviously, the board as well as the rest of the community, our teacher, staff, everybody involved in our system. So with that said, I want to ask, do you have any questions? Are there any questions?
So I thought that was for us. Thank you. Thank you. So when we receive this data and we develop it and take some action steps, how do we assure that every staff member on campus is notified of this or made aware of? Because I've often heard of students who say that it was the school secretary who paid them more attention, or that they felt more connected to that particular one. So how do we assure that we don't keep it at the top level, right, that we bring it all the way through our system? Right. So what we're working on is, and we have been we communicate with our site leadership. Because obviously, we can't we're not going to get to every site, but we do communicate through our site. We're going to be communicating this specific data because this is the first time you're really seeing this, but we're going to be really communicating through our site leadership, through our various, leadership trainings, activities that we do with them, to be able to provide them the understanding as to how they can bleed it back down into the school site, so that all of our staff, teachers and certificated and classified together, are all well knowledgeable about what's going on and what the perceptions currently are. And then on top of that, that particular data that we have is actually disaggregated by site.
So we do have it down to each individual school site has that information for their own specific site. And by specific demographics, and I've actually shared that data with you in the past, from our English language learners, our foster, some of our homeless students, and including with all of the other student populations that we work with. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I think we had another question.
So it's a question and answer. If you absolutely want.
This is embedded in every single dollar and everything that we do. This is so important. It should be. Yes. Yes, I did from my parents.
So I would. Absolutely should be in the home. If you'd like to have a meeting with Dr. Goins, I'm sure he would sit down with you. Mm-hmm.
Which?
Sure. Absolutely. Carla, Mr. Gavin. I think actually Ms. Wilson might be able to answer that question. She's saying how does individual counseling look? What does that look like in our schools in regards to counseling students, privacy, and permission from parents?
Counseling. We're allowed to do counseling with students for crisis situation, and the law allows us to do that. But beyond crisis situations, we get parent permission, written parent permission, and consent in order to do ongoing counseling. So we typically see students maybe once, and then after that, we tell them that we need to have parent consent. We're required to keep it confidential for students that are 12 and older. Students that are younger than 12 years old, we're able to discuss it with parents. Like I said, where we do ongoing counseling with students, we get parent permission. That's a legal thing. That's not a district policy. That's a legal confidentiality law. Well, then they need to talk to the counselor about that. And if they don't have a resolution, then they can certainly contact me. Okay. Thank you.
Good questions. I had a question too about the SARB. I know during the COVID they kind of disbanded that and so forth. Are they starting to bring that back? Because I know that was a good incentive for families that are struggling with attendance to kind of get them back on track. So I was just wondering if the county is helping now with that and how they're bringing that back.
Absolutely, yes. The first step is our ACT program, though, and that's, again, through the district attorney's office. We work directly with an assistant district attorney. Her name is Frances. She is extremely supportive. And through the ACT process, once a student misses a certain number of school days, then that information is submitted to her office. And then she meets with us. She meets with our school counselor. She meets with the parent, with the student, and also with our counselor and special assignment in charge of attendance to discuss what the barriers are. And it's no holds barred. I mean, she is very, very serious. I do not want to be on the receiving end of that conversation. If the ACT process does not get the desired effects, then we go to SART. And after SART, we move to SARB. But all of these pieces have to be in place before we can have SARB.
And I know before it was kind of an ongoing challenge between our different school sites to reach like 95%. I know that's a very effective attendance rate, for students. So we talked about that to be successful. After COVID, I know it's dropped tremendously around the state, around the country. What's our average now at our school sites? Is it around 84%, or because I'm trying to wondering where we could start setting the bar so we can start bringing that back up.
So actually that document that I showed you earlier jumps it from week by week, but I believe the last we looked on our Lancaster Interactive dashboard, it was hovering around 89 to 90, between 89 and 90%.
So that's significantly better than we were last spring.
It is better than we were last spring, but it's not where we want to be.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're really focusing on trying to get back to that 95, 96%. Mr. Conti's very intent on making sure that we have get that taken care of. So, hold on 1 second. I'm just going to take this back to the last one.
Dr. Goins, the demographics of the attendance, do we have I think you do have, where is the largest number? Is it foster, homeless?
Well, specifically with our foster and homeless, we definitely do see a higher rate of chronic absenteeism and absences. A lot of it is due to the nature of what's going on in their lives at that particular time, spending time in courts, pieces of that kind of, or things of those particular nature. However, what we are working closely to try to work to be able to build our attendance in those particular areas. But those have always been low areas for us.
Let me ask another question then. Knowing if that demographic is homeless, I'm sure a lot has to do with that. Foster children, special education. Are they all bused to school?
Not the sub. I mean, there are students that are within their home boundaries, who live within their home boundaries, and are going to school in their particular area. But they are getting bused. They are bused like many of our other student populations as well.
And the reason I ask that is because I think when I first got on the board many years, 7 or 8 years ago, one of the questions was, who do the children trust the most? And I think Diane remembers it. It was the bus drivers. That's who the kids believe in the most. More than their parents, more than the students, more than their teachers. They liked the bus drivers because they were with them every single day.
So
in a good way.
And also, many of them quoted to say that was the first smile they received all day and the last one when they got dropped off.
It's that connection to one adult is one of the biggest indicators of success in terms of being able to build students up and get them past. So you had a question, ma'am. Yes. The actual curriculum for SEL? So the actual curriculum is actually a curriculum called Second Step that is completed daily with our students. Sometimes they use community circles. Generally speaking, that's and Ms. Wilson, please correct me if I'm wrong. A lot of the time that is to solve questions or to solve conflict that might be happening in a particular area. But however, the Second Step curriculum is something that is served to our students on a daily basis, or given to our students on a daily basis. I'm sorry. Our students all receive social emotional learning. So we look
At
It does.
so it's yeah.
Share amongst each other.
That's a lot of time.
So if I could respond, just having been a teacher for 14 years, academics can't exist. You can't get to academics in a classroom unless you have created an environment in which learning can take place. And part of creating an environment in which learning takes place means establishing positive behavior supports, establishing routines, establishing social emotional supports so that students are prepared to learn. And I would argue with you that by providing social emotional time, by providing community circles or restorative circles, we actually increase the amount of time that we can connect and teach kids because we have them in a setting in which they can learn. So teaching is a very difficult profession. And you have to understand that teachers come into a room and there's 30, and sometimes there is 35 in a classroom, and each one of those children have different needs, and we have to deal with them, each one of them, and can make a connection with each one of them. So I would argue that by using these social emotional tools, we actually expand the amount of time that we can instruct children. This has been going on since I started teaching in 1994, 93, and I was using those tools back then. Our test scores right now, and our test scores across the state and across the United States are low because we were in a pandemic and students, yes, and they've gone down because of it, yeah. Yeah. If I would encourage you, if you have a child in our district, you're more than welcome to sit in a classroom and see how it's done. We really encourage you to just take the time and experience. Okay, sir, we're not going to use the language. Your conversation's over. We're not going to use the language. Your conversation's over. Sir, can we please ask him to leave because the conversation's over? We're not going to use profanity in here. We're not going to use profanity in here. So we're going to ask you to leave. We're going to ask you to leave because we're not going to use profanity. We provided a respectful environment for you. Yeah. So you're going to leave because you use profanity, and I apologize for that. I'm sorry that had to happen. I think we can have an adult conversation. Can we please ask him to leave? Can we please ask him to leave?
Calm yourself.
And some of our children don't have those opportunities at home. And so sometimes we have to provide them. Okay, if we could ask him to please leave, that'd be great. I'm sorry that you have to leave, and I'm sorry that we use that language. I really am. Because I think you do have something to say.
Just a point, I can understand they would think that's a waste of time, but as a classroom teacher myself, I have seen that taking the time to do restorative circles or community circles, a lot of times it's just touching base with the kids, find out where they're at in the day, get the day started. It builds community in the classroom, and it helps build a culture where the kids are ready to learn, more receptive to each other, and more open to sharing where they're at. They're also used for academics. They use restorative circles or community circles to review the main points of the lesson or the main points what was there in the day. So I know you might hear that term. It might sound like it's not academic. But as a classroom teacher, you do need that cohesiveness in your classroom for the kids to be supportive of each other, to be on track, And last year, I had just amazing success with using the restorative circles to the point the kids really built a community, and they really needed that after COVID because they'd been on their own so much, and it really helped build a cohesive classroom. At the end of the year, the kids all came together and they were all crying, and they formed a big circle the last day of school, and they're all saying, "We're going to miss you so much." And those kids are still close even after last year. So give us a chance, look into it, do your research. I know I had the same reservations at first when I heard about it, but it does help build a classroom, but it does need to be in cohesion with rigor and academics. So, I'm totally in favor of all those things.
Thank you.
I was in LAUSD. I had 42 actually in a class. I was at LAUSD at Southgate High School, and I had 42 students in a class. The job of a teacher is an amazing job, and it's very challenging. And we have amazing individuals. Yeah, and I hope we're not correlating that to the work our teachers do. I hope that's not what we're doing.
I try.
With all due respect, the work they do is not pointless. It has an effect, though. It does. And I respect your opinion.
And we agree with you. We have been trying to limit the class sizes. In fact, we had a class size reduction in the lower elementary grades. So we do agree with you. That is one of our goals of our district, to limit the class size.
Not a discussion.
Just a bunch of.
And that's yeah. So that's a different issue. But
More and more.
Yeah. So I encourage you, I know Dr. Burns is willing and open to having a conversation.
Absolutely.
Because we can learn from each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've got, and if I don't have any cards on me today, but I'll give you my my office number so that you can contact us tomorrow. So before we go further, I want to make sure that you're going to capture your thoughts or any of the thoughts that may be popping up. I would love what we're using as an information gathering tool today is going to be that thought exchange that's going to be available, and we'll be sending it out via text and email tomorrow morning for everybody to be able to answer. And that's going to be what's going to be the primary piece that's going to provide us with the ability to be able to focus on change. So the focus, what I'm looking forward to, is being able to work with people, to work with our teams to be able to support Dr. Marietti in the building of the strategic plans that we're looking to try to build into our school district, because that's going to be what will bring about sustainable change that will not just be a 2022-23 thing, but a 23-24 thing, a 25-26 thing. Oh no. To provide this information, we will use our principals to be able to use our site principals to provide targeted site data for them for their school sites. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Goins. Excellent. And team. And with that, it concludes our community forum.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great night.